Hey everybody, I'm Dwayne Robinson. I am a principal solution architect in the PowerCat team focusing on Copilot Studio. And if you want to connect with me, you can always just scan this QR code and that'll get you to my LinkedIn, to I think X, and the YouTube channel that I've put the educational content on that some of you may have already seen. But I'm glad to be here today, and we've got some exciting stuff to talk about today. Thanks, Ashley.
Awesome, no problem. I leave it over to you now.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I'm just going to share my screen to make it easier
Fantastic.
and get a quick thumbs up from you guys that you can see. Can you everybody see my screen?
I
Yep.
can see your screen.
Excellent. All right. So we'll start with just making sure everybody's on the same page. So Copilot Studio, again, is our low-code tool, but it's also can do pretty advanced things. It's really our end-to-end SaaS platform for building agents and extending the M365 Copilot, as well as any other first-party Microsoft Copilot product. So just be aware that if you're not familiar with it, then know that the Copilot Studio is basically our solution for being able to build agents across the board and giving you the power to be able to customize the first-party agents that we offer. Now, when we look across the ecosystem with Microsoft, when we look at it from an agentic ecosystem perspective, what you're going to see is that Copilot Studio has a lot of different capabilities in it, and it is part of an entire platform or ecosystem that we work with. So I'm going to start on the left and work my way right on this particular diagram really quick. So if you're thinking about like Copilot Chat is this what I would refer to as a freemium type of offering that allows a business to be able to chat back and forth with an agent, a productivity assistant agent, things of that nature. But it's really more focused on answering questions over like content on the internet and things like that. Think of it as like a chat GPT that you can use that doesn't use your data to train its model. It is not going to go outside of your enterprise. It's made for businesses to be able to take advantage of the power of using tools like ChatGPT or Copilot without necessarily worrying about their data leaving their boundaries. So if you want it to help analyze some source code, you can do it without the worry of that getting out of your org. Then we get into the M365 Copilot, which is going to be that personal productivity assistant. Now it's adding your corporate data in. It's allowing you to do beyond biz chat, but or the Copilot chat function, and really getting into, okay, now I can actually answer questions, anything in the Office graph, and be able to talk about the meetings that I'm having next week and things of that nature. So, but it's very focused on productivity type of scenarios, and it's got a lot of value there. And it also can be extended by Copilot Studio, which is going to be where you start hearing about Microsoft agents and things of that nature. And so think of it that I can start extending these different things and I can build these different agents. And I do that using Copilot Studio, which is right there kind of in the middle. And Copilot Studio then gives us the ability to build and customize what we want. But what is Copilot Studio at its core? It's a conversational orchestration engine. So it gives us the ability not only create agents, but also be able to build our own custom agent where we can route back and forth and connect to many different things. And this is where Azure AI Foundry starts to come in, and the topic we're talking about here today, which is how does Copilot Studio work better with Azure? And we're going to go over a lot of different capabilities as we go. But know that Azure AI Foundry plugs in at this place because maybe I have 3 or 4 different RAG patterns I built in Azure AI Foundry, and I want to be able to use that one whenever I'm talking about HR, and that one when I'm talking about IT, and this other one when I'm talking about finance things. Well, for us to be able to bring that into an agent experience and then also tie to other things as well beyond what we could do just in a simple RAG pattern, that's why you need conversational orchestration. Think of it as kind of like a router, a conversational router. And Azure AI Foundry and a lot of different Azure components can plug right into Copilot Studio so that you can go beyond the boundaries of what's in the SaaS and even let you bring in PaaS-based implementations where you need that complexity and that configurability. And then also be able to bring in agents. So think of it as kind of like a router, a conversational router. And Azure AI Foundry and a lot of different Azure components can plug right into Copilot Studio so that you can go beyond the boundaries of what's in the SaaS and even let you bring in PaaS-based implementations where you need that complexity and that configurability. we make that possible for you. And then that's where third-party agents and custom agents also plug in as well. So we can plug those in through, of course, through Azure, or we can plug those into Copilot Studio. And we're going to talk about a bunch of these different extensibility points as we go. Now, if we think about Copilot Studio and Azure, we really think of it more as a better together story. We don't think about Copilot Studio versus Azure or Azure AI Foundry. They aren't the same thing, and they aren't intended to be the same thing, and they are meant to work together, not to be a competitive type of situation. That wouldn't make a lot of sense for Microsoft to build competitive solutions like that. So when we start thinking about this, there's a lot of different things that are coming out from bring your own model, bring your own index, being able to do like natural language understanding, a lot of these different pieces that can all be brought together. And today we're going to start working on, and I'm going to be doing a lot of demonstrations. With that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into some demos with you guys. And again, the cool thing is what I'm going to be showing you today is not just Azure AI Foundry. We had a session about Azure AI Foundry and why to use it, and where is a good use case, and kind of double clicked in some of that. But I'm actually going to go further than that. So like today, I'm going to just talk about some basic Azure integration that we have here. And we're going to work our way all the way to all the different complex things. So let's go ahead and switch over, and I'm going to do a demo of how we can do Entra ID integration. We have application insights. We're also going to look at an Azure Function app and how you can consume it. So with no further ado, let me end my slideshow. And what you're going to see here is this is Copilot Studio. So while we're looking at Copilot Studio, I just want to call out a few things within Copilot Studio. And that is, when we come in, we have this overview pane, and you can see like it builds different knowledge and tools and all of this. And I've already added a bunch of different stuff to this for our demos today. And the first place I want to start is going to be that I want to show you how Entra ID works. And when we think about Entra ID authentication, inside of Copilot Studio by default, we have it set to use Entra ID authentication. So where that's set is if you go into settings and you look at security, you're going to see authentication right here. And you'll see that it's already set to use Entra ID authentication. Now, we can also do manual authentication Entra ID if you want, and be able to have it where you can even get more control, or you can go and plug it into something that isn't Entra ID if you wanted a custom authentication provider. But we went ahead and did the work for you to make it where it just does this by default, so that you get like single sign-on and things like this. But a lot of people don't know what all that provided for you. So what I did is I said, you know what? I'm just going to run a little simple query here by going in and saying that I wanted to create a topic. And that topic, I'm going to say, I'm going to fire this one that's for logged in user information. And so I can just ask a question, or what are the details of the logged in user? And because we have Entra ID authentication already turned on, you're going to see it come back and give me all this different information from this particular user, because we have already got variables that are created inside of Copilot Studio. So when we look at this, just let me show you inside of this really quick, that you'll see all these different user different variables. And you can see these in variables by coming in here, and you can look at system, and you could just type user, and you'll see them all right here. So all of those are already available for you, and it's really simple to use and right out of the box. Now let's talk about a different thing. And this one is one that a lot of people don't think about, and they don't necessarily use as much as they should, which is application insights. And now application insights, I want to be able to look and get information about how my Copilot Copilot Studio implementation is performing, and things of that nature, like application logging. Well, to be able to do that, we actually go into settings and we go into, I believe it's under advanced application insights. And you'll see here that you can actually, and it's expanded because I've already configured it. But what this is this is the ability for you to be able to go get that logging. Now, if I pull over my Azure subscription here, let me give it 1 second just to load over here on my other screen. Here we go. If you're looking at being able to pull this in and you're coming in and you're saying, okay, well, I've got an application insights implementation, just know that when you have an application insights implementation, you need this connection string. And it's right here that you go grab it. And all you have to do is drop that into this connection string information right here, and then choose which options you want, and you'll start getting this information. Now, the other thing is that you can also, by doing this, you can start to log events. And if you weren't familiar with that inside of a topic, if you go into any of these different topics that I have here, I'll just scroll to the bottom of this one really quick. I want you to see that you have the ability to send an event or log a custom telemetry event. And this makes it where I can say, oh, okay, I would like to collect this in my application logs so that way I can use this over and over. So again, great capabilities with application insights right built into Copilot Studio. So if you're trying to do this, it takes just seconds to configure it. If you haven't done that, then what you're going to find is that while you're building, if you ever wanted to go back and get some logging data and figure out where you might be having some issues or things of that nature, you're going to have Copilot Studio has some of that, but this gives you a different layer. It gives you the ability to really get into it and analyze your application at a whole nother level. Now, the last part that I wanted to kind of show you is going to be a different perspective of things. And that is a lot of people will go and build a function app. And imagine you built yourself a function app and it has all these different capabilities and things of that nature. Well, if you go and build a function app inside of Azure and you want to be able to call that function app inside of Copilot Studio, that's where custom connectors come in. And one of the great things that you can see is that I actually have went in and I built something inside of tools here. And you'll see this Microsoft order status. And what I've done is I've built a custom connector to be able to check the status of orders for like my Microsoft order and allow it to be able to come back and fill in the information. And you'll see here it's saying it needs like an order number and things like that. But the way that I was able to get this and make it available to me was being able to build a custom connector. And so when we go in and we take a look at, let's just go, I think I can quickly get there by going this way. Let's go look at the custom connectors that I have available. And you'll see right here, I've got this Microsoft order status. And because I have this Microsoft order status component or this connector that I've built on top of this, and here we can even go in and take a look at this, and you'll see it gives me information. And when I built it all, I went ahead and did all the work to be able to say, okay, what kind of security does it have? What is the definition? What are the things it can do? You can even look in the order number. Is right here that I'm going to pass in. And then you can even go in and you can say, inside of each of these different things, I want to know answers to certain things. Like I want to say the estimated delivery date. Well, what is the description? And if you'll put a model aware description in, it will make it where when you build the action, you don't have to do anything because all of that stuff translates directly in right here so that we've got our additional details. You can see that the description came in, and on the input side of the house, I've got all this information. But we also have on the outputs, and if we look at this, things like the estimated delivery date, if I come in here and click this gear, you can see I've got the description. So I've already done the work by creating that custom connector to be able to turn this into an action. Now, what does that mean? that means that an action is going to make it so that I can talk to the Microsoft Order Status API as if it's a human. And just to give you an example of me doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to open up our test pane here. And let's come in here and let's ask a question. So we're going to say, what is the status of my Microsoft order? And it's going to come back and it's going to ask me for an order number. Because remember, we had an input that we said we needed, which was the order number. So if I give it the order number and pass it on through, it's going to come back and here are all the details of my order that I had. So voila, it's just that simple whenever you want to go build and being able to take this in. So now let's jump back over the presentation and let's talk about other Azure integration points beyond just our traditional Azure integration. So the next thing I want to talk about, next thing I want to talk about is going to be knowledge and what we're doing with knowledge. So with knowledge, if you're not familiar with knowledge in Copilot Studio is the capability for you to be able to go out and create a RAG pattern over your own data. And it allows you to go out and connect it to all kinds of different data sources. And some of the data sources that we offer, are non-Microsoft data sources, but let's talk about the Azure specific ones today. And the first one that I want to kind of showcase is I want to showcase the Azure SQL one. And I'm not going to show you Azure AI Search today just because of the fact that the configuration for that can take a little bit of time. But I will tell you, I definitely have videos for how to be able to do that. And you can go and ask questions over different knowledge and be able to be in full control of your own index. I will show you where we can do that because when we go into this, it's sort of important to understand that when you're trying to make a decision on what is the correct implementation for you, you want to be able to think about where is the best indexing quality and how search results to be able to feed back into Copilot Studio so that the large language model can do the work that it needs to do for you. And when we think about it from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense that you can be able to do different things. Now, only thing is that we've actually done a lot of work in this space, and we've added the ability for Azure AI Search to come in, but we also did Azure SQL as a mechanism as well. So just be aware that one of the good things about being able to do things with Azure SQL is that you're going to have the ability to explain the structure of the data inside of Azure SQL. Whereas in Azure AI Search, you're going to get the ability to go across multiple different implementations and be able to say, okay, I want to search these documents that are unstructured data and be able to get back search results, and it will give you back the information that you need from those particular pieces of content. So like Azure Blob Storage or something like that, and you got a bunch of PDFs, that's where Azure AI Search will play a really good role. If you're wanting to put something out, maybe it's external and you need to be able to do this where you can't go to SharePoint to be able to go get access or something of that nature. There's a lot of good use cases for where you would go do that. Or what if you wanted to define your own custom chunking strategy? Then you'll be able to do that as well. And it really makes a really awesome way for you to be able to get in and be able to use your own custom search capabilities inside of this. Now, as far as Azure SQL, I also will talk to you about this as well, and I'll show you where you go to do all of these things. I did on my channel, so on the video, the QR code that we had earlier, there's links where I go into the details of all of this, so if you want to go click in, you can. But let's go in and let's go take a look at where these things are configured and how you would go about configuring both Azure AI Search and Azure SQL instances. So let's go ahead and in the slideshow and go into that. So the first thing I would do is if you're trying to go in and you're wanting to add it, you need to go into knowledge. And so when you come into knowledge, I've got a couple of examples here, which is like Microsoft.com and support.microsoft.com and things of that nature. But what I wanted to do today is I wanted to show you where would I go if I wanted to add like Azure AI Search. Well, it would be right here that you would do this. And you'll see that I had a previous connection. And fortunately, I had to delete this particular instance. But what I'll do is I'll show you where you would create a new one. So basically, you would come in and you'd have an access key. And you'll go in and you'll put the endpoint URL and the admin key from it. And once you've done that, you're connected in. There's really nothing more for you to do to be able to connect it up other than this, to be able to have Azure AI Search as your own custom search querying over RAG for you. So this is a really powerful way to go about doing this. Now, when we talk about the SQL side of the house, what I want to show you is that I'm going to show you a combination of things here. One is I want to show you if you pull in Azure SQL would be in the same vein. You would want to create a new connection. You can choose all these different auth options that are available to you for these different implementations. And then once you pick one of these and you get connected in, all you have to do is say what your tenant ID is, your client ID, and things of that nature. But what you'll get out of it is you'll get something much like this, which I'm going to show you Dataverse for a second. And in the Dataverse world, I can come in and say, oh, well, I would like to grab activity, action, or things of this nature. Actually, let's do address and let's do an account. And I want to come in and I want to add those into the agent. And the same thing will happen with SQL tables, where you'll get the same look and feel that goes in. And what it will do is it will make it where it will go look at these particular structured data tables and make it so that now we can talk to those different structured data tables. And you'll see here that once you do this and you click in, you can click into these and see different pieces of information. Like you can get a preview of the data that's in it. And you'll see that I don't have any records in these here, but in this one I do. And you can also come in and configure synonyms. So I can say, oh, well, when I say account number, here's a different term for account number. And I can also come in and give it a description as to what is this thing? What is the structure of this data? But I can also come in and do a glossary, which is going to say, oh, this is a term we use inside of our organization, and it means this. And so in this data set, if it's talking about a TPS report, then this is what a TPS report is to the organization. And again, you can do this in Dataverse, but you can also do it inside of SQL. So it's kind of cool that you can go and do all of these things when you want to integrate with Azure. So let's have a conversation about multi-agent and multi-agent configurations. Now, this can be a little more complex than other things because of the fact that what we're talking about is how can we have an agent talk to an agent? And there's a lot of different options here. And when we think about where you will do agent to agent communications or multi-agent conversations, part of this has to do with how we can plug into things like Azure or Azure AI Foundry agents and things of that nature. And so the good news is that is absolutely coming. It's going to plug in the same ways of what I'm going to show you today. But I wanted to give you guys a perspective of how this whole thing works so that way it'll make sense. So as we bring in the Azure AI Foundry agent capability in, so that you can just connect it right into your Copilot Studio environment, you'll understand what we even mean by that. And there are different configurations and different ways that we can do multi-agent inside of Copilot Studio. So let's kind of talk those through. So the first thing is if you think about Copilot Studio and how we handle things today, what we have is I have an orchestrator level. That orchestrator is looking across all the different assets that are available to that particular agent. And in this case, we have topics, we have knowledge, we have tools, and things of that nature. And inside of knowledge, you have things like public websites and SharePoint, Dataverse, and files, right? And inside of tools, you have connectors, you have flows, you have prompts, MCP servers, computer use, and REST API. Like all of those things are going to be considered tools. Well, when we start thinking about agents, well, agents kind of pop in like this, where I also need to be able to orchestrate two different agents depending upon what those agents provide as their solution. So when we look at this, you can start thinking about, well, okay, well, how in the world would I go and do this? Well, I can actually have an agent that is inside of Copilot Studio that is not its own standalone. And the reason I might do that is I might want to put some context around these group of tools and this group of stuff with this description. I want it to behave in a very specific way. So it's almost think about building like a container or like a group of things that I want to behave in a very specific way within my solution. But then when we start thinking about, well, wait a minute, what about things that are outside of Copilot Studio? Or what if I want to use somebody else's Copilot Studio agent inside of my agent, not just containerize it so that I can make it behave the way I want, but I also would maybe want to add the HR agent in. Now, I'll warn you that a lot of people think about this and they think about it as a component model, and it is not the component model. You should never do microservices with agents. Agents are not microservices. This is not a component model. It is intended for you to be able to have a fully functional agent when we start talking about this one, which is a connected agent. When we're talking about a connected agent, I have a standalone application that's sitting over here that I want to be able to bring into my other standalone application so that they work together. That is what you're looking for. But there are certain aspects of this whenever you do this. It means that isn't the same dev team. It's not the same people who are doing it. I'm not using this to break up my solution into logical components. That's what a component collection is. So when we start talking about this connected agent, it's where I'm doing that. I'm taking those endpoints that are available that other dev teams, other standalone applications, and I want to pull them in. And what we've shipped today is Copilot Studio agents, but you're going to see that we're also going to be shipping all these others, including Azure Foundry coming in as well. So a lot of people are really excited about this, but let's talk about which should you use and when you should use them. So when we talk about a focused agent is the one that's inside of is packaged up, whereas a connected agent is that one that is outside. It's its own standalone application that I want to connect in. So if we think about focused agents, it's all about single developer, small, cohesive team. It's going to be where I want to do logical groups of tools and give it certain instructions. I don't want separate configuration settings. I don't want another endpoint to be stood up that I have to worry about. I don't want to have to do state transfers and worry about all of this. And it's intended to publish these agents as part of the actual solution. So when you think about it, it's going to give me the ability to say, I'd like to publish this thing together. So whereas let's switch over to connected agent. So connected agent is going to be where I've got multiple teams that are all building they're building different things, not different developer groups, but like completely disparate application building teams that are building their own standalone applications. And they need to work independently, but I want to connect these things together. And each of those things are going to have their own publishing strategy, their own DevOps model, their own everything. So don't think, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to just make everything into connected agents, because the reality is there's a lot of complexity with that. And you're also going to find that if you're not making it, if you start trying to break it into, a lot of people like to do it in functional separation or like technology separation. I wouldn't recommend that, because it's more intended for you to have a functional agent that has a functional component. Like it is intended to be used in this context. And so that makes it easier to orchestrate it. If you have a bunch of little tools, it's because they're IT tools, and you're trying to connect them in because you're trying to build a component model, that is not the right use case of a connected agent. So the other thing is that agents can have their own dedicated settings and authentication configuration. So if you need that, then you're probably going to go down that connected agent route. And they also, again, have their own application lifecycle management approach when they're in connected agent world. Okay. And so when you think about Azure AI Foundry or Azure AI Foundry agents being able to get plugged in here, they're going to be in that connected space, right? They're not developed inside of the Copilot Studio interface. They are on their own standalone. They are by definition a standalone application, but pulling them in and making them part of your solution, you can absolutely do that. So the other thing to think about when we talk about this, and this plays in with Azure quite a bit as well, is something called Model Context Protocol, or otherwise known as MCP. And this is a new capability that has really taken off, and a lot of people are really excited about this because it's basically, think of it kind of like a USB port on your computer. It's a standard way to be able to allow models to present back to agents how they're supposed to be used and be able to expose their capabilities back. And so think of it that I've got all these different APIs and things of that nature that I want to expose that back to a model so that it knows how to use me in the right way as the data source. Well, that's what an MCP server does. And you have a very much a pro code type of situation here where someone defines that as an MCP server and publishes this, and then you can connect to it and you can use that as a mechanism to be able to answer questions or be able to get into those applications and take action in those applications. And yes, you can even pass bearer tokens down to the MCP servers so that way you can have single sign-on or authentication all the way down into these things. So this is a great way for you to start thinking about, where do we anticipate this being used a lot? We anticipate that there will be a lot of people who will build business applications that want to expose MCP servers. So you might build a Azure application that you want to put as a MCP server, and you can actually do that with the API gateway inside of Azure. It has the ability to basically abstract your API and give you an MCP server interface into your API. So if you haven't played with that, it's kind of cool. And it's really kind of a neat thing that you can go do. And a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Matter of fact, the demonstration I'm going to show you of MCP today is actually going to be something that's hosted in Azure as an MCP server. So let's take a look at focused agents. Let's look at connected agents, and let's look at MCP integration and how all that works together, okay? So let me jump over here to our Copilot Studio implementation. And here we'll just clear this chat out really quick. And what I want to do is I want to jump over to and do an inline agent first. So let's take a look at where we might do something like this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete that data source we had over here that we created just a minute ago. And while that's doing that, I just want to get a quick copy of some stuff. All right, here we go. And what you'll see is now we have this agents interface up here. And it looks like I already created this one. We're just going to delete it out of there and let it delete on out, so that way you can tell I've done this demo. I tested my demo before I did this with you guys. So yay. And I'm going to just go and say I want to add. Now, when we're looking at this interface, you'll notice that up here is create an agent, and then you'll see down here connect an existing agent. This is where the separation comes between a focused agent and a connected agent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start up here. We're going to say, I want to create an agent, a focused agent inside of inside of my Copilot Studio implementations. And when I go do this, I want to go in and I want to say, okay, well, I want to make this one about Microsoft product support. And I'm going to give it some instructions and some details and things of that nature. So in the description, let's just give it an idea of what it is. And then I need to make sure that it knows how it's supposed to behave. So I'll come into instructions and I'll add some additional instructions here. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to add in the knowledge that I want this particular agent to have access to. And I don't want it to have access to everything. I just want it to have access to what I want it to have. Oh, one quick thing. Let me just switch over here because we had already added this knowledge. This is actually something, just so you guys know, we are actively working on making it where this would not be a problem for you in the future. So just know that we're going to have that where we can do that. Oop, am I going to have a problem here? Oop. Let's just do a Shift F5. I think it's just the UI is unaware that I deleted that agent a minute ago. So let's see it real quick. That's the problem when I test things right before I get on with you guys. All right, here we go. So we'll go back into our agent that we were building. And let's copy back in the information I had before. Apologies. You guys get to see this. You know I'm live, that I'm not faking anything for you today. So I'm going to drop this in, and we're going to drop in our instructions. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add the knowledge. And again, I'm adding knowledge that I don't want. It's not that the whole agent has access to this. It's just this section of it is going to have access to this. And I'm just going to say, yeah, sure, I'm the owner of this, so that I can say, yeah, optimize the search, because I'm giving you okay to cache it as an owner of this content. And now, because we've done this and I come in and I say save, now what I have is I have this sub-agent capability that's inside of Copilot Studio. So if we go back, we'll see now we have this Microsoft product support, and it's a child relationship. Now, by doing that, when I come in and I want to test and I say something like, when will Microsoft order number, blah, 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 and where can I get drivers for it, right? So I'm not going to just do something simple, right? I'm actually going to give you guys a demonstration that shows this thing actually using multiple components to go figure this all out. And so what you can see it doing is it said, oh, well, to get you the information about your order, I had to go to the order, and then I need to go find out what did you order, so that I can figure out where do I get the drivers for the thing that you ordered. And so what is it going to do? It's going to say, oh, well, the product support agent is where I need to do that. And I need to go to the knowledge component inside of that particular agent to answer this question. And you will now see that it gave me the information about the order, and it got all the information about where I can go get the drivers and responded. So see, it's not just that you have this where a sub-agent can only be functional by itself, which is what we used to have back in the day. This is where I can actually chain between them, and the orchestrator can figure out how to respond to this using all the components of both itself and the other agents that it's connected to. So that was kind of cool, and I liked that. But what about if we wanted to do other types of agents? So those of you that tend to follow me on around know that I am a bit of a fan of Porsches. And so one of the things I had was I did this demo about how to be able to get information about Porsches and all of this type of stuff. And so what I still have that old agent available to me. So what I want to do is I want to say I want to connect to it. So instead of saying I want to build one that's inside of this one, like we did for the product support, maybe I want to go and grab one that I've already done. And in this case, what I'm going to look for is my Porsche 911 manual one. And I'm going to modify it slightly here. And I'm going to say that it allows users to ask questions about the Porsche 911 models and provides information on order status of Porsche products. So remember, now I had a Microsoft one, and now I have a Porsche 911 one, and I'm just going to say I want to add it. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to look and it's going to say, oh, okay, I need to go connect that one. And because I already have that one in my available to me, it's now saying not child, but connected. And the difference between this is going to be quite big. So now whenever I come in, I can ask questions to this agent, and I'm going to ask it something like this, like what colors are available for the 911? And you'll see it's going to go through and it's going to go get that information and come back.
Dwayne, while we're waiting, sorry.
Here you
I
go.
was going to say, we had a question. Is deep reasoning turned on in this agent, to sub-agent?
I have deep reasoning turned on, but I'm not demonstrating it today.
Got you.
Excellent. So you can see it answered the question and it went to knowledge, and we did this with knowledge. But guess what? Inside of an agent can also be a tool, right? And I didn't demonstrate that before, but in this particular agent, it did have the ability to actually go and get this information. And so it should be able to pull this back. Oh, apparently, here, let's try that one more time. Make sure it got the query that I said. All right. And the idea here is that we should be able to see that I'm actually talking about going and getting information from this. And you can see that it went and it got the order information from the 911 agent, which was the connector inside of it, which is the order status for the Porsche 911. So the idea is that the tools are all available, not just knowledge. So that thing is behaving as its own component. And so, again, this is kind of a cool concept of something that you can do. Now, let's go take a look at, and again, think of the Azure AI Foundry agents being able to be plugged in this way. So now the other thing that I want to do is I want to go in and I want to show you another thing that we can do, which is the MCP side of the house. Now, when you go and you want to build an MCP server, you need to know that there is a very specific way that you have to build your MCP server configuration inside of Copilot Studio. And I'm going to pull this up really quick for you so that you can see this. Because the way that we handled this inside of Copilot Studio by using MCP is that you're going to do it by building basically the equivalent of a custom connector. And those that were eagle-eyed enough before, when I was in the custom connector interface and we were here, you're going to see that one of the things that I've got, I got to go this way to get to it, is you're going to see that I have an implementation for a lead management component. And inside of that, if I go to edit it, what you're going to see here is inside of the Swagger file, you're going to see the information on how to connect to an MCP. And you can see it's an MCP server. Now, by us doing this, I just want to showcase to you that what we can do is we can flip back over and consume it. Now, I'll go into how the custom connector is built and all of that in just a minute so that you can see this, because you can't just click through and do it. You actually have to provide a Swagger file to do it. And we have explanations on how to do it. Now, when you say you want to add a tool, what's going to happen is it's going to come in and we're going to say that here's the tool we want to add, but I'm going to filter down to MCP. And you're going to see here that I've got that particular one that we've already built. And all I have to do is just, in this case, just know that you'll have to create a connection and things like that. And I'm going to go ahead and say add and configure. And while that's going to go do that, let me showcase for you really quick the article for this. So if you go to learn, you'll see here that there is information about MCP. And if you scroll down, you will see that there are MCP schema examples that will give you what you need to put in. And there are two different types of way that MCP can work. There is one that's called streamable, which is the one we're going to support officially. And then there was an old one, which was called SSE, which was server sent events. Know that we are going to deprecate the support of SSE and focus on streamable because it is the one that seems to be what everyone's looking for. So when we were talking about building that Swagger file, you can see here, all you had to do is copy this and you really can put your endpoint in. And then what you're going to see is it'll do an invoke. Now, when it does that invoke process, what happens is it goes through and it inventories all the tools that are available. So the MCP server is saying, here are all the different tools that are available that I have for you to use. And you can see that I've got those there. And if that doesn't fill in for you sometimes, just know that you can click this little refresh and it will refresh it and bring it on in and it'll make everything good to go. Okay. So now that we've hooked in our MCP server, which is doing lead management, what I can do now is I can actually talk to it, right? I can, and let's make sure that everything's saved. It's like everything's good to go. You see it right here. You'll even see that it is a model context protocol. And now I can come in and let's just clear the conversation so you get a full new history. And I'm going to ask it a question about what are my current leads. Now, because of the fact that this understands that that's where you go to orchestrate to it, I just have to go through the connection manager really quick just to connect it. And I'll just say connect. I didn't tell it to use author authentication. Sorry for demos. A lot of times you do this. So we're good to go. And we'll just retry that. And you'll see that it went to the MCP server. It figured out which tool it needed to go get that information. Now, interestingly enough, I can actually have a conversation with this thing pretty definitively, right? So you can see here, it says, here's the current leads, and one of them is about Acme. So I could then come back and say, when was the Acme one open? And when I say when was it opened, it went back and it didn't go to get leads, it went to get lead details. And it went and it answers this question. And again, all of this is interacting. So if you've got these MCP servers that you're building inside of Azure using API gateway and things of that nature, what you end up with is you end up with all of these different capabilities just built right in so that you can just connect these things. Now, sure, there's limitations, there's things that you're running into, but this is really where we're seeing a lot of future happening inside of Copilot Studio. So hopefully that is pretty helpful for you guys that haven't seen this before. One of the most requested things that people wanted to be able to do, and that is to bring your own model, bring your own Azure AI Foundry model in and be able to use that inside of Copilot Studio in different ways. And we're not going to just bring it in one way, guys. We're bringing it in two different ways. So the first way that we're going to bring this in is we're going to have bring your own model to prompts. So your ability to have your own custom prompts with your own custom model, you want to be able to even fine tune or whatever, you can go do this. And not only that, that is actually out today. And I'm going to show you how it works and the ability to do that. But there's a second part that's not out today, but you're going to get to see it here first today. And that is, I'm going to show you how to bring your own model as the default model that Copilot Studio uses for response generation. So it means that you come in and you say, I would like this to be the model that I'm going to use to be able to generate the responses or create questions and things like that. So the whole generative orchestration engine, when it needs a response or it needs to get summarization action done, it will use this model as the mechanism. Now, it's not changing the model that is doing the orchestration, but it is going to make it where you can change the model that you want as the default model that you want to be used. And it makes it where, sure, you get to use the one that you want out of Azure. So these are both Azure things. And I think you guys are going to enjoy getting to see how all this works, because I think it's pretty darn cool. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you Azure AI Foundry with prompts. Then I'm going to show you response generation. And then I decided I'm going to throw a little fun at you today. And I'm going to show you this capability that we also launched, which is multilingual capability, so that you now can actually have conversations with your agent in different languages and be able to make it where you don't necessarily have to do all the translation work. And I'm going to show you a little trick. I won't lie, there is going to be an enhanced version of this trick that I'm working on the back channel. And so hopefully you guys will hang out, keep up with me and follow me on LinkedIn, because as soon as this is something I can share with you guys and show you how to do it, I'll show you how to do multilingual even for non-response generated items. So, but right now we're going to focus on response generated. I'm going to show you how you can do it today. Also for things that are not response generated with multilingual. So with that, let's jump right in to our favorite thing in the world, the Copilot Studio. So I'm going to clear everything out for a little demo here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do a custom prompt implementation. Now, the way that we're going to do this is I already created a topic just for speed that helps us with job interview assistant scenarios. And when I did this, I went ahead and just said, hey, I want to pass in the question, and I want to use a model implementation that or a prompt to be able to answer this question using GPT-4o Mini, right? And instead of using GPT-4o Mini, I actually am going to go in here and notice that I've got these Azure AI Foundry ones, and I could choose to go and do this with Grok, or I could do it with all of these other different models, right? But what I'm going to do here is let's do it this way first. Let's just go ahead and use this one with, I'll choose GPT-4o Mini really quick, which is the default, and we'll just confirm it out. And I want to run a test here, and I'm just going to ask this question: what should I wear to my interview? Now, what it's going to do is it's going to generate a response, and we're going to do this with 4o Mini. Oh, or hope we will. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a bug in MCP where it does that in the UI. It doesn't actually do that, but don't worry. It's they're working on that one. So, hold on. I didn't save this. Let me go back. Sorry. You guys have to forgive me. I told you that I demo live, and for better or worse, I demo live. So that's where I run into a problem sometimes. And I'm just going to go to the standard model, save it. And we get to watch the little spinning bar. There we go. And we'll do this. Make sure that's good to go. And let's see if we can get it to respond to me. Oh, all right. Well, it looks, sorry. It's because I did something earlier for you guys that I just shouldn't have done, which is I was doing this. I just need to refresh it to know that it needs to use this model. I think that's what's going on. All right. Let's hope that hopefully I didn't hose my whole environment really quick right before you guys got to see it. All right. So give it one more try. All right. So when I say what should I wear to my interview, it should just go ahead and answer this using an existing model. And of course, it's hating me right now. So we'll move on from this. Now, typically you would see this go and answer this question and such, but it looks like I've probably hit some sort of bug in the fact that I'm switching it up a lot. But let's go ahead and add a custom model in, because what I want to do is, instead of using like a Grok or something like that, and just to show you guys, I think if I flip this over to Grok, it'll probably work. I think it's just the fact that I messed up this other thing. But the idea here is that I'm going to be able to come in here and I can flip this over to Grok and I can hit save, and it should go through and give me the ability to see it use Grok. But what we're going to work on as well is, instead of having this do it the way that it was doing it before, let's see if we can ask this question, if Grok will fire off for us. Okay, so this is a response that we used Grok for, okay? But imagine, if you will, I've decided that what I want to do is I want to add 5.4, because if you guys don't know, 5.4 is one that Microsoft owns and is one of our new models. So, and when I come in and I hit that plus mark, I can see here the model deployment name and all this other stuff. Well, where do I do this? How do I actually do it, right? So the way that you do it is you come in here, and one of the things I can go ahead and tell you is 5.4 is the deployment name. This is the deployment name inside of Azure for it. And I'm going to drop that deployment name here. Then the base model name happens to be the same. If you want to know where the base model name can be found, you go in here and you search inside of these, and you'll see model name equals, and it'll be right here. Now, each of the different models will have a different sample piece, but that's where you'll go get that. Now, the next thing that you'll need to grab is you'll need to grab the endpoint URL. And the endpoint URL is right here. You can just click it to grab it. And the same thing will happen with the API key. There is in the same spot, you have the API key. And for the API key, I'm just going to copy it and then paste it over here so that you guys can see. And I'm going to tell it to connect. And with me doing this, what I have done is I have connected that Azure AI Foundry implementation that I had for 5.4. So now if I come in here and I said, I want 5.4 to be the model, as you can see now we've selected that by default, and I said save, we're going to ask that same question, and we're going to see a different way that it's going to respond, because we're not using the old model. We're not using the Grok model anymore. We're using this new model. And there you go. Well, if you wanted, Dave, let's ask the same question. Let's see, here we go. And don't worry, that will be gone before the end of the day. All right, here we go. Let's say that same question again. What should I wear to my interview? Now the difference is it's going to fire off. We're going to see the difference in the response. And the difference is because I used a different model to be able to do this. Okay. And you can see that Phi gave me a pretty good response on this, right? So again, this is kind of a cool aspect of doing this with a prompt, right? Now, let's switch over and let's take a look and do something a little different. Let's go in and say, well, what if I want to change the default model inside of Copilot Studio? How would I go about doing that? So again, this is something that is coming, and know that the UI of this might change a little bit between now and when you guys receive it. But if you notice here, there's the response model that is available in the overview tab. If you click that and click edit, one thing you can go ahead and do today is you can select different ones today. But now you'll notice that I have already connected that 5.4 in. And you can see here that if I wanted to connect it, I would just bring over the same kind of information over that I would put in. Now there is, if it ends up shipping and looking like this, do know that one thing is that it expects in the PHI model a URL. There's documentation I would recommend you read, because I do have to today, I have to take it down to just this, just the base URL. So you won't need the entire URL before. I'm working on seeing if we can't get that resolved before we go into production, so that way you guys don't have to deal with it. But if we go in and we select 5.4 and I hit save, what you're going to see is it's going to completely revamp Copilot Studio to using 5.4 for everything that we've done for the response models. And be aware that, I'm going to go find something that we can do.
Awesome. While we're waiting, Dwayne, I do want to say, 8 minutes left, so in the session.
Okay, no worries. So what we'll do is I'm going to drop
Q&A.
This here, where we can see it, and it will go through and it will respond using this new 5.4 model. And so all of the stuff that we did before is now using 5.4 to be able to answer and do the summarization. So what we'll do really quick, just to showcase really quick for you guys, one last little thing that I want to show you, and that is going to be that what you can also do is multilang now, and I will showcase this to you really quick, is that if I want to, at this point, I can start talking to, because this agent already has Spanish set in the settings, you can come in and you can say that you want languages, and you can see that you have a language here that's put into Spanish. You can come in, you can change the language to be Spanish. And once you change it to be Spanish, you can see that it didn't do Spanish here because that's not the response wasn't generated. But if I ask a question in Spanish, it's going to come back with an answer in Spanish, because I'll tell it that this is the order number I'm looking for, and it's going to go through and it should provide it. Now, it looks like I need to change it because it doesn't like 5 likes that. But the point being is that you can actually now do translation directly in the service itself without having to do that. And if you decide you want to do something kind of crazy, I will give you guys a sample really quick. And that is, if I wanted to change the translation for that when it said hello, if I came in here and said I want to add German, for example, then the way I would do that is I'd come to languages, I'd add a language. You could come in and say, here's German, add the German in. And then now, because of the fact that we have German support, maybe I want it to actually speak in German whenever we say the hello message here. To get that done, you just have to go to these, and this is an example of what I said where I'm going to give you an easier way to do this long term, but I can just Control A and then drop this piece of code in, and you'll see that I'm actually using a large language model to do the translation. If it's not English, because I default to English, go to do it this way. And what you're going to see is that when I run this again, sorry, did it too quick to the trigger here. Oh, I have to switch the language. So if I switch the language to German, what you're going to see is that it will follow the path and it will actually answer and say hello in German. So with that, know that we can start playing with these different things.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Dwayne. Very informative session as always, and hope to see you guys next time. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, and night.